Thank you, Rachel. I appreciate that. I like seeing that video. Good morning, everyone. I'm Liz Ritchie, Board Chair of Civic Influencers. Thank you for joining today. And I'm very proud to be part of this organization. We're doing some really great things. As many of you know, Maxim Thorne, our CEO, joined us 2 years ago. And under his leadership, we have committed to a data-driven approach, which is essential if we are to stay impactful and relevant in this fast-moving world. We also evolved our name to Civic Influencers with more relevance to our target audience. Most of us lament the current state of our country and how terribly divided we are politically, but we've also recognized we are divided technologically as well. Many people are siloed in their own media echo chambers, politically, but also importantly for us, generationally. I see, as I'm sure many of you do, how different these times are from when I first registered and voted in my first election. Jimmy Carter, anybody? We all watched the same 3 TV shows, TV networks, and we read the same printed newspapers. We used rotary phones. If we traveled, we needed traveler's checks, and we had to go into a bank to open an account. We have left that world behind. Innovation is everywhere. We now have Amazon delivering whatever we need, simply with an app on our phone. Many of us use Facebook to stay in contact with family, friends, our alma maters. Young people use TikTok, Instagram, Snapchat, Blue Sky, Threads. This is how they gather and share news and have conversations. We understand this and we're committed to meeting young people where they are. Our mission is still the same, but our strategies and tactics have evolved across the board, including reimagining our historic voter guides. Today, you'll learn about how we are involving young people in revolutionizing civic learning and how they inspire and mobilize on the issues they care about. Our students come from diverse geographies and experiences. They attend important but often overlooked community colleges, trade, technical, and vocational schools, historically Black colleges and universities, Hispanic serving institutions, tribal schools, and many more. These young people are saving our democracy, and we are equipping them to make their voices heard. Thank you again for being here. And now I'd like to introduce Maxim Thorne, our CEO.
Thank you, Liz. Thank you all for coming today. It is so great to see so many people interested early, the beginning of the school year, for this conversation about how we're going to be helping to equip young people and meet them where they are right now so that they can have an impact. For example, in Ohio, where there's a ballot measure on abortion, in Pennsylvania, where the Supreme Court is in jeopardy, just as it was in Wisconsin, and in Virginia, where the entire state house is up for grabs. And just think of Virginia either staying red or actually staying blue or turning red. Young people will decide each of those very, very important elections that impact our democracy. And that's what we're about. What Liz mentioned to you earlier is that we committed to a data-driven approach as it concerns young people. And we had to face some very tough decisions and some very hard facts. And you'll hear that later when I'm in conversation with one of our amazing civic influencers, our boots on campus, who's in North Carolina. And you'll hear from Jada. You'll also hear from Izzy, and you'll hear from Paul. What we had to grapple with is that one of the gems that we used in the past, our voter guides, the approach and the method and dissemination does not work for this generation. We admire what we did in the past, and we admire what the League of Women Voters still does, and what other people are doing, but they are targeting a different audience. They're targeting a different audience. As Liz said, for those of us who had rotary phones and checkbooks and traveler's checks, we still like to get things on paper. Not so for young people. Have you seen any young person with a checkbook signing it? Have you seen anyone using that particular modality to communicate? Have you ever seen someone, a young person, singing from a songbook, or are they singing from their cell phones? Have you seen them, give a speech with paper, or are they using their cell phones? What we had to grapple with, and what our research showed, is how we had to pivot. Because when we printed and mailed, and when we did not use young people in the co-creation of this, it went in the garbage. And that is something you're going to hear about later today. And why, if we want to meet the need, which we must, the need is they need accessible, relevant, candidate and issue information from trusted sources. Trusted sources for a different generation would have been Walter Cronkite. No one in Gen Z, who are 18 to 29, knows who Walter Cronkite is. Trusted influencers for young people are Jada, are people in their peer group. And they respond very differently to where the message is coming from and who the message is directed at, and what the message is saying and how it is saying it. I want to read to you a quote that I hope you find interesting, because it was written more than 1,000 years ago. It's an acolyte of Confucius, but it's still relevant to what we're doing. Here's what he said. Tell me, and I forget. Teach me, and I may remember. Involve me, and I learn. This may have been true in Confucian times. It is certainly true today. And that's what we're doing. And that's how we reach young people in Ohio, in Virginia, and in Pennsylvania. And what we will be doing throughout this year, 2023, all of these crucial elections, there are no off years anymore, and through the presidential election of 2024. And then later on, I will give you some very exciting data that makes us very optimistic about our strategy with the issues and voting guides that we're creating, co-creating with our young civic influencers, and all the other strategies like getting polling sites on college campuses and shuttles to the polls and more. So let me introduce right up Jada Mohammed. Jada.
Hi, everyone. How are you guys all today? I am Jada Kelly, a junior psychology student minoring in political science and marketing, and I attend the illustrious North Carolina Agricultural and Technical State University, and I'm pleased to be here today.
Jada, how long have you been with Civic Influencers?
I've been a civic influencer since the summer of my freshman year.
So this is your third year?
Yes, it's my third year with the team. I'm so excited to be here again.
Thank you. This was one of the pivots we made, by the way, for everyone in the audience. No off year, no one-offs. It's important to have continuous engagement and the transfer of knowledge from the senior civic influencers to the junior ones, and build that capacity over time so that we do not have a stop-go method here. We keep them and try to keep them on as they mentor each other and the next generation of student organizers. Jada, why do you choose to do this work? And then for your third year?
I choose to do this work because this is something that's really passionate. This is really something that is a passion of mine. I really love the work I do. I got involved just organically, and I think that's something that fuels the fire with it, because my friend just told me to just do this. Like, she told me, oh, Jada, like, I do the civic engagement stuff. So I was just like, well, let me go do it. So I was just like, let me get involved. I think that if you do something with an organic passion, it kind of makes it easier to just get involved.
So Jada, when you first told me that story, I said to you, Julian Bond, the famous civil rights icon, who was one of the founders of SNCC, had said something very similar. I asked Julian, why did you become an activist? Why did you do sit-ins? And he said, I don't know, because someone asked me. Did you start North Carolina A&T as an activist organizer, or was that someone just simply asking you?
I did not start with anything, like not even a knowledge of like too much about voter registration. I was registered to vote, but I really didn't have much of a knowledge. My friend actually, she was very involved in voting, in voter registration since high school, and she told me about it, and I just wind up getting involved organically from there. And I've been with the team ever since, and with OLSE, so now we're here.
Fantastic. Now, you heard me read the Confucian quote. I want to read it again, because I want to hear what your thoughts are in how it relates to your approach and what you're doing. So he said, teach me and I forget. Sorry, tell me and I forget. Teach me and I may remember, but involve me and I learn. Does that make sense to you?
It does make sense to me, and it resonates with me really, really well, because I think it's something that you can apply to life. I feel like if you really want to get involved with something, you have to learn new skill sets and make sure that you can apply the skills that you're learning. I feel like someone can just tell you something and like, maybe you'll remember it. It's kind of fleeting. Someone can teach you something. We learn things in school all the time, and the next year, do we really remember it? Maybe, maybe not. But when you learn a skill and you submerge yourself in the environment, you're actually applying the skill sets you're going to be learning.
Right. So let's talk about that. So Jada, I'm going to show you and show everyone on the screen some of the things that you have been doing that relates to issues and our voting guides, right?
Yes.
So, oh, sorry. Let's go to Jada. Right. So Jada, you have been creating, like all of these other civic influencers, this.
There's only one. All right. Y'all better come up here and get one of these.
What's that?
It's a chicken salad.
So Jada, what is that? For an older audience who have been involved in voter registration and candidate guides, this is not understandable necessarily, because they've been getting, and as you know, we used to do printed material, right? They get it mailed, they read it, etc. Why do you do this?
I do this just because this is the best way to reach my audience. I'm targeting college students, and on my campus, I know if we're not making content, pushing it out there, and it's in their face, they're not going to look at it and they're not going to be engaged with it. So making content like Reels and TikToks and Instagram posts, this is kind of how I can get them engaged in voting and make sure that we can highlight the cause we're trying to go and push for.
Good. What do you think of our method in the past of mailing voter guides and using a very established journalist, say from the New York Times or the Wall Street Journal, who had won a prize or won prizes? Would that work with you and with your generation?
I don't think that is the best approach. I think that the voter pamphlets were something that was best for back in the day. But now as we turn over, I think that in your face and social media and content creation is the best way that we can reach towards a younger audience. I feel like this is the best way that we can get them engaged when they have short attention spans and they can't focus on reading long drawn out emails or long drawn out pamphlets with jam punched information. This is the best way we can be short and sweet. You can watch a video, you can look at a flyer, it can grab your attention, and people can understand the graspy understanding of what they need to learn from the information. The videos are small, the flyers are small, and I think that's the best way to push out content.
When you say the videos are small, the reels are small, is the best way to push out content, why are they small, why are they short, and why is it the best way to push out content?
It's because of the attention spans. After the pandemic, we're all doing Zoom meetings. We're on a Zoom meeting right now. Everything's virtual. Everything's like, people don't want to watch a long drawn out like trailer or movie about what the importance of voting is. We will want that to happen. That would be the ideal dream, but that's just not realistic in the sense of trying to target young voters, because they're not, it's a fleeting thought for them. So trying to make it easy breezy, watch a video, see a flyer, go to an event. That's the best way to target them, because you want to make sure that it's not overbearing, but they can still get the message.
I want to alert the audience to what your major is. You're a junior. What are your majors?
I'm a psychology student and I minor in political science and marketing.
There you go. And is what you're saying consistent with your studies?
Yes, people kind of like, oh, like you're a psychology student, like how do you get involved with politics and like civic engagement? But I really enjoy psychology, so that's kind of why I'm on the path of it. But I have it as my minor, and I like marketing too. So I think that kind of pushes me on this path, because I'm doing the content creation on the marketing side. I'm civically engaged, and I feel like knowing people like with psychology is the best way to kind of make sure that you're moving intentionally whenever you're doing things such like this.
Good, stay there. So one of the things that the research is showing us with Gen Z, our audience of 18 to 29-year-olds, is that co-creation, involvement, ownership, taking over how we express ourselves or how they express themselves is the only way that they're receptive to the content. Do you agree with that research, Jada?
I do agree with that research, because at the end of the day, that's the reality. We're moving farther and farther away from the traditional voter pamphlets. We're moving into a progressive state where we're just going to be content, short and sweet, and making sure people get the message of what it's really about.
I want to ask you one last question that really hurts someone like me. Who, you know, I at one point, I mean, I still do on occasion, I was teaching at Yale. So I like to be an authority figure, and I'm a lawyer.
Yes.
Do you think you care in a pamphlet that is written by an authority figure, a journalist who's established, a professor who's established, or are your peers more influenced by what each other is saying on TikTok or Instagram? Be honest.
I believe that even though it might be a credible source of going from the, like Yale, or a nice article that was written and made nice, it's at the end of the day, I feel like we're kind of moving away from, we get information from every place and every outlet. I feel like social media is one of the big contenders where people getting their information, even when it comes to politics, and that can be the same for voting. So I feel like we need to push that content out in all outlets by using social media and using other platforms that are not just written work. I feel like if we utilize videos and flyers and content creation, we're moving towards a progressive state. And I feel like that's the best way to move for civic influencers and other voter registration organizations as well.
All right. So now I'm going to show everyone some examples of what you have done and what other folks have done. Because I think this is so lovely and so imaginative. It's multimedia. You have the technology that we never had. I mean, to me, this would have been in Hollywood when I was in college. But you can do this, and our young folks are co-creating this content. That's so amazing. So look at this, folks.
Biden has just released his first campaign ad for the 2024 presidential election, and it is amazing. And I bet it's going to give you chills. Take a look at it for yourself.
As the sun rises, we raise the flag, a symbol of all that we hold most dear as Americans. Courage, opportunity, democracy, freedom. They're the values and beliefs that built this country and still beat in our hearts. But they're under attack by an extreme movement that seeks to overturn elections, ban books, and eliminate a woman's right to choose. Joe Biden has made defending our basic freedoms the cause of his presidency. The freedom for women to make their own healthcare decisions. The freedom for our children to be safe from gun violence. The freedom to vote and have your vote counted. For seniors to live with dignity. And to give every American the freedom that comes with a fair shot at building a good life. In small towns and big cities, we raise our heads, our eyes, our hearts for America, for the idea of this great country. Joe Biden is running for re-election to make certain that the sun will not set on this flag. The promise of American democracy will not break.
Democracy must not be a partisan issue. It's an American issue. As your president, I will defend our democracy with every fiber of my being, and I'm asking every American to join me.
So Jada, here's my question on that. Was it important? So to me, that's a marriage of an older generation and a younger person. Was that marriage important?
I think it is to at least highlight what's going on with the older generation and kind of the other policies, but incorporating new things within the older kind of display.
Right. Because the younger person, ironically, was the one who gave legitimacy to what the president had to say, that democracy is not partisan. Do you agree with that?
Yes, I believe that having that video, like having him in the first part, like he was really excited too whenever he was like telling the information, and then he showcased the video so that it kind of promoted like the video was in good news. So then whenever he was saying the part of at the end, when he was like talking about like the headline statement about the video, it kind of emphasized this is good, we want to promote this, and this is kind of the way we want to progress.
Good. Let me show you a few others, because I think this is so innovative and so fresh, but a lot of folks have not been exposed to how this is actually impacting and engaging and inspiring young people like yourself. So here's another example, Jada.
Young people need to start getting more involved with America's political processes. You see, we've always heard the fact that young people are typically underrepresented at the polls, and they're especially underrepresented at roundtable discussions for solutions to problems in our country. I know myself, I personally care about sustainability, and climate change will affect our generation the most, so it's time that we start voicing our opinions now so that we can make the change we need for tomorrow. That's why my work as a civic influencer is extremely important. A lot of it centers around getting young people democratically engaged and civically engaged. But although young people tend to be underrepresented at the polls, there's a lot of factors that lead to this. Maybe it's a lack of transportation, maybe it was a lack of education, and that's something that I personally try and take care of. One of the events that I host with the Democracy Project at Rollins College, which is a nonpartisan group dedicated towards civic engagement, is something called Rally to the Polls. Essentially, we offer free transportation to college students to take them from college over to their polling location and back. This way, we can make it a lot easier for them in terms of transportation. And on top of it, we offer them QR codes that take them to the different candidates' websites so that they can inform themselves before going to the polls. Rally to the Polls is just one example of events that I help host in order to get more young people democratically engaged, more civically engaged, and get our voices out there. It's time that Generation Z, that young people just in general, start making a change. And the first way that we do it is by showing up to the polls. Thank you so much. Young people need to start getting more involved with America's political processes.
Get ready with me primaries. Build a foundation for knowledge by doing research. Google them, it's free. Do your research, read the League of Women Voter Guide, and make your decisions. A lot of people tell me that they actually don't vote in the primaries. It's actually way more important to vote in the primaries because it's a lower turnout, meaning your vote matters more. You get to pick what you want your party to look like, and most importantly, you get to pick who becomes a nominee. Next up is going to vote. I'm going to be sharing some voting hacks with you. You can write down the candidates that you're going to vote for on a piece of paper and bring that in with you. Don't forget to bring your driver's license to make check-in process easier. Look up the closest polling location and live wait times on votetravis.com. Seriously, it's live. I saw this mistake made so much as a poll worker. Make sure you ask for the Democratic primary ballot. If you want to do more, you can volunteer, donate, or become a precincter for your neighborhood. Early vote starts February 14th to February 25th. If you can't vote then, vote by March 1st.
Next.
Did you know that this year, the amount of young people who voted in the 2020 election has skyrocketed? The more you grow older, the more you'll be exposed to different things and different topics, and soon you'll be able to voice your own opinions. Now, what exactly are we voting for? education, healthcare, immigration, student loans, abortion rights, the list goes on. Our political system is the building block of our daily living, and just simply getting out to vote and encouraging others to vote, sharing information through social media is just one step from a huge change.
I'm going to stop. I could go on. So I want to get your opinion on why, for a different generation, it's so odd. There's a pun that one of the students is making about putting on foundation makeup and the foundation of democracy. And there's a different music. It's what's going on in the background is not necessarily what's the content. How is that effective? Why do they do it that way?
I loved actually that video because people love Get Ready With Me. So if you can make something kind of like educational, but incorporate like everyday life, that's another tactic to kind of get people really involved in your content. But even just like the last video, we're just stating the facts, or the video before that, we're just stating the facts and explaining what the necessity is to vote. Those are things that are kind of like a call to action. They kind of emphasize the point. It's real direct, short and sweet, and it gets to the point. I think that this is the best way to kind of reach the audience because it doesn't have to be a lengthy drawn out video or lengthy drawn out article, but it gets people engaged and it says the point. The message is clear and it's received.
So very interesting. And the reason I'm asking you these questions, Jada, is that we've gotten these questions from members of the audience, and I'm putting it to you to answer them. So you say they're getting the message. Some people say, but voting is a serious matter. Very serious if we're talking about healthcare and climate catastrophe. Very serious if we're talking. And this doesn't seem serious to me. Well, how do you respond to that?
I personally believe there's a lot of serious matters that aren't dealt with in a serious way. And at the end of the day, when you're trying to make impact, we have to kind of stray away from not traditional norms and kind of move into non-traditional norms. Whenever COVID happened and we turned everything to be virtual, that was non-traditional, but it wound up working, and we still do things like that today. We're on a Zoom call today. That's happened in COVID. We could have an in-person meeting, but we choose to still do things virtually and go and change with the times. As we're changing with the times, we're still evolving. So as we're changing into the new era, people are engaging with social media content. That's one of the things that are like the highlighting parts of our society. People love social media on multiple platforms. We have various outlets that we can go and engage students with. So I feel like we have to kind of evolve into the new era of how to engage voters. And this is especially imperative for the younger audience because they're all on social media. They're on TikTok, Instagram, and Twitter, Snapchat, all of those outlets. So we can really utilize all the outlets to kind of create change for the voter, for voting in general.
I want you to expound a little more on how you are, I'm going to use this as my word, demystify, making it not intimidating, making this a part of regular life. It's not coming down from high. It's not coming from the Ivy League. It's not coming from the White House. It's you and me, right? You and your girlfriends and your boyfriends, right? You and the sorority, you and the marching band and the glee club, and so it doesn't seem like, oh my God, I am too young and too uninformed to participate. Because a lot of folks think these are important issues with gravitas, and you're making it too light. I want to go back. Why are you taking this approach? And explain to an older audience why that's essential.
It's better off to be more authentic whenever you're talking about it. I feel like if you are making it too serious, it might actually lose the authenticity of like your approach. I feel like, oh, so what are you trying to gain from me voting? Or like, what is the other ulterior motive of you trying to get me to vote? I feel like we have like content creation or just even talking about this just in general, this kind of sets an approach where it's not as serious. I feel like when it comes to younger people, we want it to be less serious so that we can understand that it's just a conversation or it's just a video. We don't want it to be too serious because it makes it seem like it's above us. And I feel like when you are younger, you want something that can be real. And that kind of is a better approach. That's why social media is more authentic with reels. Reel and content creation can just be making a video on your phone. It doesn't have to be a like a high HD video camera and making it super just super like extra. It doesn't have to be like that. It has to be authentic. It has to be genuine. Just a simple video will do, and it gets people engaged. Just like the girl that was doing her makeup and doing the foundation, she said that you can even research things on Google. Something simple as that, that's how you can get people engaged. They don't need to do any grandiose research. They can just go and look up on something on Google and they can figure out information themselves. Making it easily accessible and authentic is the best way to approach the situation when you're dealing with the younger audience.
Thank you. So I want to address something that's in the chat room, Jada. When we pivoted to a data-driven approach and are committed to amplifying the voices of young people like Jada and shifting power to young people to determine what they want, how they receive information, it's tough. But that's the path we chose, right? That's the path we chose. It's really hard. And when the research shows what Jada just said, if you shift the voice and the authenticity of a young speaker to a different mode, a different dynamic, a printed something, it invalidates what they want to do. It actually then undermines the power of the speaker of Jada. It undermines what they have been building over the last 3 years, like Jada. The reason this new world, this technological generational divide, is that they have to control and co-create the content, and they have to do it methodically and consistently over the entire timeline. From now through the presidential election of 2024, you do not shift the voice. You do not shift the voice, and you do not shift the voice. You would have Walter Cronkite, for those who were around back then. Jada probably has no idea what I'm talking about. And Walter Cronkite would be on the news on on the nightly news. He'd be on Meet the Press, and he would be on the presidential election, and he'd be on the morning after. You don't shift the voice. This generation has a whole set of different voices. When we had only 3 network TVs, ABC, CBS, and NBC, that was it. Now there are literally hundreds, thousands if you include other countries, right? We are developing on these campuses incredible leaders who are the spokespeople for their generation on that campus. They're micro influencers, whether it's in North Carolina or Greensboro, or Albany, Georgia, or El Paso, Texas. They all speak differently. They speak different languages. Their idioms are very different. Their style, the music is very different. You don't suddenly create and impose a national, it may be beautiful for the academy. It may be beautiful for a different generation. Cultural competency is not just race and gender, and it's not just geography. It's also age. It's also age. It's also age. And we're committed to amplifying and equipping young people and having them use their power to determine their destiny. And that is why, if we had, of course, an amazingly big budget, and if every donor committed, and if donors targeted some specific thing that they wanted and we thought it was relevant, we would do it. But given limited resources, I can't do everything for everyone. And so we make tough choices. It doesn't mean that they're not great for different audiences, but we are very clear on what our audience is. And we're very clear to this particular modality of co-creating with young leaders, influencers on their campuses, how they're going to do this, especially for historically Black colleges and universities, especially for Hispanic serving institutions, especially for community colleges, especially for trade, technical, and vocational schools. Those voices and their ownership and their talent and their representation matter. It matters. And that's why we're doing what we're doing. Lastly, Jada, I'm sorry to have, like, you are the gift, right? As all of your colleagues are. I want to go to Instagram because a lot of folks of a different generation have embraced Facebook. And Instagram is a part of Facebook now. So you saw TikTok videos, but you've also been using Instagram. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay, so talk to us a little bit about what we're seeing here.
Okay, so this flyer was created. This was my first event for civic influencers. Me and a fellow civic influencer at the time, Brentavious Boyd, we made a flyer kind of posting a Juneteenth Instagram live. So on Instagram, this is a feature where you can go live, like in audience, just like kind of like the Zoom, but you don't have to schedule it. You can just, when you see the link, you can just go on. We had at least like 70, 80 attendees. Our class was very engaged in the comments. We had a lot of comments like wanting to learn about Juneteenth. We talked about facts. We talked about the importance of voting and how to get engaged on the Zoom. And it was like around like an hour or so, hour and a half. But it was just really informative.
And so I want to connect the dots here. So your social media throughout the entire year, or years in your case, has been connected with actual in-person activity and engagement. They're not disconnected. It doesn't just turn up around the election time. You are engaged and connecting in virtual and in real life strategies. Is that correct?
Yes. For different events, like even like for National Voter Registration Day, like yesterday, we might try to like be engaged for different holidays and events throughout the year. So it's not just like around voting time, we want to get engaged. Like for Juneteenth in the summertime, we want to get engaged, and for different outlets like that.
Thank you. All right, so look at this, Jada. Oops, go back. What's this?
So this was an event that we had on Monday. This was kind of like a voter one-on-one type of event. We talked about how to get registered in voting. We had the registration table available. We had shirts, we had food. It was very engaging. We had political leaders like in North Carolina, like judges come engage us in their conversation and kind of learn like about gerrymandering as well in North Carolina. But just as more so like what's going on in North Carolina, voter one-on-one, kind of get educated. That was the type of event, and it was really engaging, and we had a good turnout.
Wonderful. Jada, thank you. I am thrilled that you continue to be a civic influencer. I'm thrilled by your creativity, your passion for social justice, your passion for democracy, your passion for marketing, political science, and psychology. Thank you for being with us this morning.
Thank you. Thank you guys so much. But I just do want to leave you guys with just one little thing before I do leave. Just try to like stray the narrative away. I do understand the importance for these pamphlets, but I do want to say that pamphlets can get thrown out. Social media and content creation is something that we really need to push, because social media can go viral, social media can be reposted, social media can always be broadcasted, and we really need to just push that narrative as we're going and targeting younger voters, because this is what's important. This is how we're going to engage them. So make sure, as we are going to use traditional methods, let's progress into a more modern sense so that we can go and engage our new voters. Thank you guys for having me so much, and it was great.
Wonderful. Thank you, Jada. I want to now shift to staff. So as you know, and to those who are new to us, we hope to fund about 1,000 Jadas across the country in targeted districts. Those are districts with tight margin where young people like Jada can actually impact that election. We can't cover 50 states and all the territories. So we've identified a number of key districts in the country for federal elections. We've identified local elections or state elections. We identified battleground states for the presidential elections, Senate races as well. That by equipping and amplifying the voices of Jada and her peers, over 1,000, they can make a difference. They can create granular conversations about the issues they care about and share it within the medium of the school and their classmates. And hopefully they go viral. Even a 26-year-old, say, Cardi B, who's a rapper, her video on women's gynecological health and how that is impacted by Obamacare shifted the conversation in the entire country, from Chuck Schumer down to ladies who perform in nightclubs that she was speaking with, and how important it was to get that kind of help. And if we didn't have universal health care, what would happen to a lot of workers and so forth. That is the authentic voice. That is what will draw folks to register to vote. And what will draw them to actually vote, whether it's in the primaries, whether it's in Wisconsin's or Pennsylvania's Supreme Court election, Ohio's ballot initiative, or the state races in Virginia. Here's how we help them as staff. Izzy. Izzy is our senior person in communication. She's young, but she's our senior communications person. So Izzy, how are you helping co-create this work, these issues and voter guides?
Yeah, I think, it's really important to get students like Jada involved because at the end of the day, our jobs on the communications team is to amplify their voices and really focus on their communities. There's in the driver's seat of this work, and it's about their voices in their communities.
And how do we ensure quality? How do we ensure that we help them develop a style, we help them with content? What else are we doing?
Yeah, I think it's important to flag here that we're not just parachuting in with our messages and our methods, but that we're really going to the table and meeting them where they are, and making sure, like you said over and over again, that we're co-creating these. At the end of the day, they are the trusted influencers on their campuses, not me, not you, not some New York Times journalist, but they're the influencers that their peers respect on those campuses.
Fantastic. Thank you, Izzy.
Absolutely.
And Paul.
Yes, thank you, Izzy. And hello, everyone. Before Maxim takes your questions, I want to take just a moment to introduce myself. I know we're running over time, so thank you for bearing with us and sticking around. I promise I'll be brief. My name is Paulo Tierzo. My pronouns are he, him, and I am the Chief of Stakeholder Engagement at Civic Influencers. It is urgent that you support our talented civic influencers who are co-creating the issues and the voting guides. I hope you are as impressed and proud as I was by Jada and the other civic influencers who we highlighted. Our data-driven strategy helps ensure that our civic influencers are inspiring and mobilizing their peers right now. And why is right now important? Well, as Maxim mentioned at the top, in Ohio, we successfully empower young voters to fight back against efforts by anti-choice extremists and prevented a ballot that would have threatened abortion rights in the state. In Virginia, young voters have an important opportunity to impact both the Virginia State Senate and win the House of Delegates. And in Pennsylvania, the state Supreme Court is up for grabs. Just like in Wisconsin this past spring, young voters will help determine who wins. Our goal is to ensure the sustainability of all our civic influencers through at least the next 12 months, with a minimum commitment of $500 for one term. We're inviting everyone here to support with a $500 donation to fund one civic influencer for one term, or if you're able, $2,000 to fund one civic influencer for all 4 terms in the calendar year. You can also adopt a trade school or a community college for $10,000. Excitingly, we now have the ability to run peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns so you can recruit your friends and your family to help raise this goal. Another option is to adopt a historically Black college or university or a Hispanic serving institution by giving or raising $15,000. If you are excited by how young people saved us from the threatened red tsunami, how much we need them to prevent the nightmare Handmaid's Tale in Ohio or Virginia, and to build momentum to the presidential primaries and the election, please give today. School already started, and we need to pay these amazing civic influencers. Please also consider hosting family, friends, or company briefings for us. Getting others to give in addition to you amplifies your impact and will help save our democracy. Your generosity and commitment will make a tangible difference in the lives of young activists like Jada and countless others across the country. Together, we can address the pressing issues of our time and amplify the voices of young people in shaping the future of our democracy. Thank you for considering how you can contribute to our shared vision of a more just, equitable, and inclusive future. Your support today will ripple throughout our work, leaving a lasting legacy of positive change for generations to come.
Thank you, Paul. Thank you. Folks, before I take questions, here are the targeted districts and races for 2023. This is no off year. Everything we're doing needs to be funded. If young people, the literally over 1 million young people that we are reaching, we're reaching with this strategy and these other strategies. Boots on campuses, literal boots on campuses like Jada, but also virtual issues that are developed granularly on those campuses. Here are the races for this year and through next year. These are statewide, right? You will also see the 34 districts. These are districts in 2022 that were won by under 1%, like Lauren Boebert's district of 465, or John Duarte's district of 565. The marching band, the football team, the sorority could swing that election. We try to make it easy. We try to make it fun. We try to make it understandable and not portentous. It has to be like, we can do this, folks. These are the 2024 that we're building momentum to. You'll see the Senate elections that young people can swing. You can see the presidential states that young people can swing. And you can see the governor's race in North Carolina that is so important. Our strategy is data-driven. We test it. We test it. We test it. We listen to the true authority on young people. You know who they are? Young people. And we hope that you understand. We may not all agree, but I hope you understand our logic and also the limits of our resources. So now I will take questions. Rachel.
Yes, thank you, Maxim. And thank you everyone for all of your questions. We do apologize that we were over time, but this is such a valuable conversation to be having. So Maxim, we've got a few questions regarding anything about data, and as a data-driven organization, can you speak to how we have data that demonstrates the reach of these digital voter guides and how far they're going for young people?
Yes, yes. Actually, the beauty of the technology today is that we can track whether it was the X, the former Twitter, whether it's Threads or Blue Sky, whether it's Instagram or Facebook, whether it's TikTok. You can literally track not only how many people viewed, but how many people retweeted, shared, engaged. You know, people thought I overstated when I was analyzing what we did in 2020. And I'm not overstating. We could not find, maybe they existed, but we could not find a single student that was mailed a voter guide who said they received it, they got it, they used it, it had an impact. It wasn't like I'm talking about 10% or 20%. I'm saying we couldn't find a single one. I asked every single statewide organizer, couldn't track it. This you actually can track. Google Analytics and other analytics, right? It's really pretty amazing. It's really pretty amazing. What I do know is that we loved it. And as a professor, you could say, this is really wonderful. There's authority in it and so forth. It's so painful when you actually hear, but it's a different audience, right? The different audience. It's not, it wasn't great. It wasn't, it was incredible. It wasn't, it did its job for our time. It is where we are today. So our Google Analytics show engagement. In fact, it's probably more now. One of our CIs, 40,000 followers, which is more than our campus. And I want to keep reminding people, this is not a one-off. This is not a one-trick pony. This is engagement National Voter Registration Day. This is engagement in the mayoral election. This is engagement in campus elections. This is engagement on pipelines and power grids in Texas. This is engagement in mass shootings, on and on and on, that they're engaging and building momentum as a movement of young people through the presidential election. We are developing trusted influencers, who will be able to shift power and help determine outcomes of really important races that will save I believe, our democracy because of them. Rachel?
Thank you, Maxim. We also got some questions as Jada was speaking that there's a lot of information on Google, and how do we as a staff help support our civic influencers when they're building these nonpartisan digital voting guides so that they don't fall into that misinformation pitfall?
Yeah, great question. Great question. Great question. It's a national, probably international challenge. Misinformation, disinformation, particularly, by the way, with Latinx young people. One of the things that we are trying to correct, in many ways leading the whole country on, is how we speak and engage young people. How we speak and engage young people where they are, whether they're in South Texas, whether they're in Georgia or Texas or Florida, Nevada, Arizona, Pennsylvania, Wisconsin, Michigan, North Carolina. Really important, really important. And because we are using a micro-targeting strategy, so we are a national organization for sure, but our work is hyper-local, even down to the campus level. What Jada is producing is for North Carolina A&T, which is the largest HBCU in the country, almost 13,000 students, right? There are 279,000 students at historically Black colleges and universities. When you have margins so tight in some of these districts of 500 votes and 600 votes, you realize that if a campus has only previously been voting at 30%, and we got that to 50% or 100%, they're determining the outcome of those elections. That's just HBCUs. Same is true for Hispanic serving institutions, tribal campuses, community colleges, where we don't have the problem that students graduate and move, because community college students tend to live in the community. That's why they're community college students. So I focus on community college students who are also the target of voter suppression, but who also, the data shows, are more likely by a significant percentage and by significant points to prefer pro-democracy candidates, to prefer people who are aligned on them on preventing mass shootings, on preventing climate catastrophe, on believing in equal rights for the LGBTQIA community, for a woman's right to choose. Those young people at a community college, trade, technical, and vocational school, at an HBCU, at an HSI, and a tribal campus, are the people who are more likely to save our democracy. And so we're targeting those students. And they also face the worst kind of generational gerrymandering, the removal of polling sites from their campuses, moving polling sites away at a distance, right, so they can't get to it, denying them the ability to use their voter IDs. And so that's where our focus are, and that's our strategy of countering disinformation and misinformation that comes from national sources by using local students and amplifying their voices within their campuses. This is not about reaching CNN and MSNBC or Fox. This is micro-targeting at those margins.
Great. Thanks so much, Maxim. We are at the top of the hour, folks, so I'm going to go ahead and wrap us up for today. We really do appreciate all of your questions. We've got them saved, and we will be following up with you individually if we didn't get an opportunity to answer your question. On behalf of everyone here at Civic Influencers, I want to thank you again for joining us, and we will be certain to send this recording out for anyone who's interested in sharing it with your networks.
Thank you. We look forward to seeing and hearing from you. And anyone who wants a personal conversation and a deep dive, we are more than happy. It's really important that we understand each other and understand this approach. We are trying to be as transparent as possible and have you understand where we are going and why we are doing this. We embrace, and hopefully everyone will be successful with their efforts. But I hope you understand where we're coming from, and I hope you will support all of our efforts and the efforts of Jada and Izzy and Paul and all of our campuses, particularly community colleges, trade, technical, and vocational schools across the country. Have a great day.